Hello, hello, hello. It is Monday. This is our Monday special edition of Pop and Politics. Again, we are talking about the latest in hot topics, news, and entertainment. I'm KJ, along with, of course, Shelly E. And back tonight again with us is Tyrone Keys from Soldiers of Finance. All right, how are you all doing tonight?
Doing good.
I'm doing good.
Excellent, excellent. All right, the ladies are out tonight, but they will be back on Wednesday. As I always say, join the conversation by leaving a comment on YouTube or Twitter. We will check the comments periodically throughout the show. And don't just comment, subscribe. If you miss us here on YouTube, you can watch us on Rumble, or you can listen to us on Apple Podcast or Spotify under the same name, Pop and Politics. We are an independent media, and if you want to support what we do, your super chats and donations go a long way in helping us produce conservative content. Any amount is appreciated. Guys, this is not just a podcast. This is a movement of God-fearing, truth-seeking, America-loving people that understand we are living in urgent times. There's a target on our backs because we value freedom. But we must continue to stand. Let's stand together, friends. Subscribe and help us amplify this rallying call for freedom. All right, guys, let's set it off.
All right.
All right. So we are talking again. I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight, Tyrone.
Sure.
Again, this is Tyrone Keys from the YouTube channel Soldiers of Finance. Before we get into the Biden administration and Karrine Jean Pierre's lies, Tyrone, can you just talk about what your channel specifically talks about over on Soldiers of Finance?
Sure. We cover the intersection between politics and the economy. Okay. In this day and time, no one is going to come to save you economically. You've got to understand the issues that are affecting your pocketbook, your wallet every day. And I tell you, there is a lot going on. I really appreciate the ladies here at Pop and Politics allowing me to come on periodically and talk about these issues. But like we say at Soldiers of Finance, you cannot afford not to watch. So after you're done with this, go subscribe to the Soldiers of Finance channel.
Absolutely. And we are going to get into some of that stuff that you're talking about, including the petrodollar, what's going on with Russia, and so on and so forth. Before we go there, we have to go to what's going on with this White House. They are out here lying again. And I mean, I guess Biden is getting so bad now that they can no longer cover up his gaffes. Now they just have to outright lie. So here we have Karrine Jean Pierre. She went on the offensive today against the Post, the New York Post, calling out President Biden's frailty in a series of recent videos, only to make false statements of their own in the process, so she says. So she accused the Post of spreading misinformation about videos of Biden at the recent G7 World Leaders event. And then another, of course, with President Barack Obama this weekend in LA. She called the videos that were been circulating all throughout the internet as cheap fakes. And that's exactly, she says, I think you all have called this the cheap fakes video. And that's exactly what they are. They are cheap fakes videos, and they are done in bad faith. Take a look at this woman. I mean, she just continues to lie and lie and lie. I think we have it here. One moment. Let me see here. Before I post this video, what are your thoughts on this, Shelly, of what's going on?
If it's one thing I know, and I think I know more than one, but if it's one thing I do know, is that when the left characterizes anything as misinformation or disinformation, it's probably the truth.
Absolutely. Here we are. I have her here now where she's talking about the videos that surfaced.
There seems to be a sort of rash of videos that have been edited to make the president appear especially frail or particularly confused. I'm wondering if the White House is especially worried about the fact that this appears to be a pattern that we're seeing more often.
Yeah, and I think you all have called this the cheap fakes video, and that's exactly what they are. They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith, and some of your news organization have been very clear, have stressed that these the right wing critics of the president have a credibility problem because of the fact checkers have repeatedly caught them pushing misinformation, disinformation, and so we see this, and this is something coming from your part of the world, calling them cheap fakes and misinformation. And I'll quote the Washington Post, where they wrote about this, and they said how Republicans use misleading videos to attack Biden in a 24-hour period. And to their credit, we have a conservative Washington Examiner did call them out as well, calling out the New York Post. Ironically, several recent cheap fakes actually attacked the president for thanking troops. That is what they're attacking the president for. Both in Normandy, this happened, and again in Italy.
Oh, okay, whatever.
I think that it tells you everything that we need to know about how desperate.
All right. She's lying. She's misquoting the Washington Examiner. Shelley, what are your thoughts here?
Look, again, misinformation to them basically is the truth to us. They don't want to acknowledge the truth. They don't want to acknowledge, again, that Biden is a degenerate octogenarian. But I'll tell you what is quote unquote misinformation that also turned out to be true. How about the 50 intelligence operatives that said the laptop was a bogus story? Oh, about what? 3 years later, we found out that's the truth. What about Fauci saying follow the science, and it turns out that the science never said what he said. He made it up, right? I'll go even further back. We were told to believe that Lee Harvey Oswald just was a lone crazed guy who shot the president, right? Oh, but somewhat, I don't know, 40 some years later, we're finding out that probably the same types of the 50 intelligence officers are surely involved, or were surely involved in assassinating the president of the United States. And I'll give you even a better one. Remember in 2020, we were told that Trump did not win the election. Well, how about more and more evidence, or more and more data seems to lean that way, that he truly did? But I don't know. Maybe I'm just giving misinformation. I'm an election denier. Give me a break.
I mean, Tyrone, what are your thoughts here on this? Do you believe this is working? Are people actually not what do they say? Not believing their lying eyes, or don't believe your lying eyes? Are people really believing this White House?
There are a small minority of people who you could actually, cart Joe Biden out comatose and they would still vote for him. Okay.
Exactly.
But the majority understands exactly what's going on. That unfortunately, Joe Biden is the victim of elder abuse at this point. The question is, who's running the country, right? It's certainly not the person who was elected, right? This is bad. This is, even during Woodrow Wilson had a stroke, and they said that for the last, little bit of his presidency, his wife ran things. But that was before television. That was before social media. You could kind of get away with that at that point. But this is just bizarre and very, very disconcerting and concerning.
Yeah.
I want to acknowledge our super chatter here. Thank you so much. I thought I saw a super chatter there. Let's see here.
Abraham.
Abraham. He says, ask the other world leaders if these are cheap fakes. Exactly. I mean, even the one they're talking about with the G7, I believe the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Melania, had to bring them back. It's like we keep seeing all these leaders. Everyone's taking this man by the hand and pushing him in the direct direction. Take a look here. This is the actual video of what occurred at the Hollywood, or I should say Hollyweird Gala this weekend with the likes of people like George Clooney. It was also what's her name? Julia Roberts, a bunch of Hollywood people were there. They put on this gala to raise money for Biden. This was at the end or towards the end when they were leaving the stage. And he has to be dragged off again. At least that's what it looks like to me. Jimmy Kimmel was there. He's frozen again. Biden is sitting there frozen again. And he takes him by the hand.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see. So he's ready to leave. Biden, Obama's ready to leave. And he says, come on.
Come on, let's go get some ice cream.
Exactly.
This is elder abuse.
It is.
We push him out like this.
It is.
Let me tell you what else they have to do. They don't just have to drag him off the stage. I will bet you dimes to donuts. They also have to change his drawers. I mean, I'm serious. And I think it's elder abuse as well. We've said so. But I'm going to describe what people see that stare. Now, I will admit I am not his physician. I have not diagnosed him, but I have seen plenty of people with what is typically called a Parkinsonian stare, where people if they're in this neurodegenerative state, they get sort of like a stare. They get a blank stare because they're overstimulated, really, for that little bit of time. Their neural system is overstimulated and they really can't figure out what to do. This is, in my opinion, that's like Tyrone said, this is elder abuse. Again, I'm not mocking him because he is a degenerate, and I mean that in the medical sense, in my never to be humble opinion, that he is a degenerate octogenarian. He's not there cognitively, and no one's going to change my mind. But maybe it is misinformation. So if it's misinformation, the flip side of that is it's truth.
You know, he did the same thing at it was a Juneteenth celebration, I believe, at the White House. And now I kind of give him a little bit of a pass because that was like the Star Wars bar scene. I mean, it was a bizarre collection of folk, you know. And if you've ever noticed that he tends to short circuit when it's like 4 or more black folk, and it's like, can they read my thoughts, my my grand cyclops kind of thoughts I'm having right now? He's nervous about it, but he did that and the guy was standing next to him, trying to get him to like liven up a little bit, and all he could muster was the smile on his face. That's like his go-to, you know?
Yeah,
right.
And as you mentioned, it reminds me. I was with my nieces this weekend. They're toddlers, and it's like they get into this kind of like something you mentioned, Shelley, like a stare where it's so much coming at them, so much stimulation that they don't know what to do, and they just stare. It's just
babies do it naturally, and you know how, I mean, especially newborns, right? Infants, they do it. They go into this little, like, they just kind of shut down. Well, if you think about it, when people are in this stage of life, some people, and they have cognitive deficiencies, like I think Joe Biden does, in my never to be humble opinion, since I'm not his medical doctor and I can't make that diagnosis. I think that they tend to act more and more like children. They sort of regress into a childlike state. Again, to me, this is a normal progression of, in my never to be humble opinion, of his degenerative cognitive abilities.
And think about this now, the seriousness of this. Every day, the president of the United States is supposed to memorize a code that would be part of the process if he needed to launch a nuclear attack.
Right.
We know for a fact, I dare anybody to prove me wrong, We know Biden can't accomplish that. He can't memorize something like that. Maybe he doesn't even know what it's for. So who's getting that information as the Russians sit 90 miles off of the coast of the United States?
Yeah, and that's what I want to go into next. I mean,
yeah. Wait a minute, KJ, I'm sorry. KJ, to your point, Tyrone, I heard somebody on the radio today, a caller said that I hope, this is what the caller said, quote, I hope that Biden knows the difference between lunch and launch.
Right. Good point.
That is a good point. We're in trouble, and
We are.
I pray that everyone's whatever they say. Don't believe your lying eyes. Believe it. You have sense enough. I hope we have a voting population with sense enough to see that this is not some cheap fake, as this lying hussy says at the White House podium. It's not a cheap fake. We can clearly see, and it's not even. Let's say this was some type of cheap fake. What everyone is now. This is like the third or fourth video we've seen within the last couple of weeks where someone had to redirect this man.
Right.
I mean, it can't be that many fakes where everybody has to redirect him. That's a pattern that we're seeing with that.
And think about the nature of the people who are trying to tell us that everything's okay. They definitely do not have the best interest of this country at heart. Who are they really beholden to? Okay, so in November, I'm telling you, it's got to be too big to steal. Okay, got to come out for Trump and put this crap behind us, because this country will not make it another 4 years with a Joe Biden. And he probably stepped down shortly after the election and let Kamala Harris get in office. Okay. A laughing stock that can't stop laughing. Okay. A disaster.
Such a disaster. And the fact that she would sit by, and this is, like you mentioned, these people that are sitting by behind him and not speaking up about this, you would think that they don't care about us. They don't care about this country. They have other agendas.
Exactly.
Basically, because if they did, they would say, hey, he is not competent. He cannot be president. We need to do something else. They would sound the alarm, and they have failed to do so. They have failed. And speaking of sounding the alarm, I want to get into your reporting, Tyrone, on this petrodollar. This is serious, and the mainstream media is not covering it. The petrodollar is dead now as of, what was it, June 7th?
The 9th.
9th, right. Can you just walk us through exactly what that means? And then also, you did a video on your channel, it's up right now, Soldiers of Finance, talking about how the de-dollarization is in full swing. And now Russia and Putin are involved somehow. Can you walk us through what's going on here and how this is scary times, according to what you're reporting?
Well, let me preface this by saying, based on what we just talked about, President Xi, Putin, the people who run Iran, all of these people are watching the same things we are with regard to Biden. And I would dare say that the Chinese and the Russians probably have more intelligence around this issue than we do as just, consumers of media. They know the state that he's in. Truly.
Absolutely.
And so they being primarily the BRICS nations. Now, let me just take a minute to explain. The G7 used to be the G8 until they kicked Russia out. The G7 is a group of the seven predominantly Western governments who are joined together in an economic cooperative. The BRICS are the Eastern version of that. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa are the charter members. But ever since Joe Biden got into office and started going sanctions crazy with Russia, the BRICS has grown by leaps and bounds. Iran, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, NATO partner, says they want to join. Emmanuel Macron went to a BRICS meeting, the French president. Okay. So people are fleeing American economic dominance. Now, back in the early 1970s, two things happened. Number one, Richard Nixon took the dollar off of the gold standard. So the dollar was no longer backed by gold. Then Henry Kissinger, his number one guy, went in and made a deal with the Saudis, actually the Emirates. So all of those, oil producing Arab countries in the region, and said, listen, the United States will offer you protection, military protection, in exchange for you all denominating oil sales in dollars. They said, fine. But what that did was it made every other country that wanted to buy oil from the number one producers, they had to do it in dollars.
Right.
So they had to go out and start reserving dollars, purchasing dollars, holding on to dollars in order to make these oil transactions to power their society. That made the dollar the world's reserve currency.
And what does that do? What does that do for Americans when it's the world's currency?
When it's the world reserve currency, which also happens to be what you call a fiat currency, simply meaning that it's not backed by anything. Okay. That gives us the opportunity to, basically, it's a blank check. Okay.
Right.
We can run up these huge debts and deficits and just print more money. That's basically what that means. And we, like every society before us who has had the world's reserve currency, you can go all the way back to the first ones, which was the Song Dynasty in China. At one point, Spain had it. Then the UK, they had it before us with the pound sterling. And so the dollar, no one had ever seen a currency like it in terms of its global power, because, again, everybody needed it to buy oil.
But now they don't.
They tried to renegotiate the deal. The Saudis said, that's okay. We're actually going to take a basket of currencies in order to allow countries to purchase oil. So it diminishes the dollar. And somebody wrote in the comments, the petrodollar. That was one of the many names for the dollar. The greenback is another. But the petrodollar was specifically, it specifically characterized that arrangement had with the oil producing Emirates. So now that the dollar is not going to be in as high demand, a multitude of things are going to happen, but the primary things that are going to occur is we're going to be in a multipolar economic world. So the dollar, the euro, the BRICS are talking about creating some sort of currency that could be backed by gold. All right. Now, if we start backing things by gold, by the way, China will become the world's richest country because they have gold. Absolutely. They have
more gold than we do now.
Absolutely. They've been buying it for them, and plenty of other countries have been buying it like crazy over the past few years. That's why the United States cannot afford, literally, to back the dollar by gold, because if they did, it would de facto make China the world's richest country. So we're going to see a flood of dollars come back to the United States because people don't need to hold them to such a degree.
So let me ask you this. So, for instance, like when I travel to the Caribbean, $1 is equal to $6 in some of the Caribbean islands. So now, will that change, or so I can get?
It won't be worth as much.
I can buy a lot more, over there, because 6 of their dollars is worth 1 of mine. But so what? How does that change with the exchange rate in different places now? Is that going to upset it at all?
It definitely could, depending on the currency it's going up against.
I see.
It definitely could. The reality is that for now, America is still a prominent country. But if we look at Spain, if we look at the UK, we're at that point where we're going to slide into a sort of political, less relevance politically and economically. Okay,
Right.
as the East rises. And the other thing about these Eastern countries, India, Russia, China, they look at their situation being out of, superpower status as a brief aberration. These are these cultures are thousands of years old. They have been the world superpower before, and they're confident they can do it again. And maybe that's what we're seeing develop here. Now,
right.
We're going to see a flood of dollars come back because it's not going to be the demand for it anymore, because you don't need it to purchase oil necessarily. So we're going to see higher inflation as a result. Hopefully, we won't see hyperinflation, but the government is going to deal with that by raising taxes and manipulating interest rates in such a way that are far less stable than we've seen in the past. So inflation, taxes are going to go up.
Now, you mentioned something on your channel about Russia. So you
That's
mentioned
what I was going to ask,
about, the American government is doing everything it can to destroy the global financial system. And how does Russia play into that?
Okay, so the way I put it on the video was America has risked $27 trillion for a $50 billion flex. Okay. Now that $27 trillion is the value of the U.S. Treasury market, the debt that we sell to other countries. Okay. United States, EU, and NATO, it's all led by the United States, actually have gone out and seized $50 billion of Russian assets. And they're going to use that money to rebuild Ukraine. All right. Now, when you say rebuild Ukraine, understand who these contracts are going to go to. They're going to go to BASF, which is a European contractor, Halliburton,
Raytheon,
Kellogg, Brown and Root. All right. So it's going to be a giant money laundering operation that ultimately the American people and the European people will be on the hook for. Okay.
Yeah.
And all these other countries are looking at this saying, you know what? If they can seize those treasuries just like that, and even Janet Yellen said this is illegal, okay? But these other countries are looking at that and saying, you know what? The United States has destroyed the one thing that was its marquee brand, which was economic trust, okay? And behind that, the rule of law. We're ignoring international law. We are purposefully destroying our economic system. It is insane.
Well, I was going to ask you about the Russia-US piece too, because I watched that clip. And for lack of a better word, Vladimir Putin said, basically, you're effing with us and we have nuclear weapons. And that's what he said. I mean, that's my translation of the translation. That. Yeah. So when you have a degenerate octogenarian that may or may not know the difference between launch, like you mentioned, Russia is off the coast of Florida down there in Cuba with its own ships and submarines or whatever else in the water, right? You got our own government here undermining itself, just in a national sense, not to mention the international implications of all of these monetary policies that certainly do not benefit Americans. Ukraine, add in Burisma over there, right? I think we're headed for trouble.
Let me ask you this. And I understand a lot on the right, including myself, have said, we want out of Ukraine. We don't want to, I want out of these foreign wars. You know, we're America first and we want to take care of home first, which I agree with and I totally understand. But then, you know, on the other hand, I'm asking, we've sent billions of dollars to Ukraine, as you've mentioned. Are we in too much, or now where we gotta win? We gotta help them defeat Russia? I mean, does it make sense to pull out after we've put in all of this money?
It's a no. I mean, I'm sorry, Tyrone. For me, it's really to me, it's a no-win situation at this point. Russia is not going to back off.
No, they're not. And Lindsey Graham actually came out, I think it was today, it might have been Friday, and said, you know, we want Ukraine because we can't let China have their natural resources. Okay. So now they're adding that piece on it. I say we cut our losses, and this thing is only escalating. We are now sanctioning, or allowing rather, Ukrainian military personnel to use American weapons to hit targets inside Russia. Listen, I'm all for strong military to protect our nation, right? But when you look at how George W. Bush and how Barack Obama reacted when Putin took territory, they didn't go to war, okay? And also, he didn't do anything of that nature when Trump was in office, okay?
Right.
Nothing like that at all. He waited until the weakling Biden got in office. So the world is watching all of this, okay?
Right.
And Putin has said, and Putin's language has ratcheted up. He used to leave any mention of nuclear whatever to Dmitry Medvedev, but now he's using those terms, okay? So I think that we're in a dangerous spot, especially if you look at the House bill that everybody's talking about how, oh, well, they're going to automatically draft the men from 1846. But what people are not talking about is the fact that that bill also drafts women. Okay. Yeah. So what are they getting ready for here?
I'm too old though, right? I'm too old.
Can the woke U.S. military even, I mean, you've told white guys they're evil, they're racist. You've told them the country is evil and racist. Why do they want to fight to defend that? Why would they want to join your military?
Know what's happening right now? People are gearing up at home.
Yes.
You know, now nobody, like you mentioned, you know, these leftists have ruined, have demoralized our men. White men, they've demoralized. Black men, they've tried to feminize. You know, and so now people are saying, okay, well, you know what? I'm not sending my son over to fight for lying Biden and his crack son. I'm not sending them over there. You know what I'm going to do? I'm piling up right here.
Yep.
I'm piling up. I'm getting my bunkers ready. And this is it. You know, if they're coming, they're going to have to come for me right here on my phone or wherever I am.
We got a military that will bring recruits in and teach them pronouns before they teach them how to do a chin up.
Yeah.
That's what we are.
We used to have, remember, Tyrone, you remember too, we used to have the policy of MAD, mutually assured destruction, right? So both of these nuclear powers, the US and Russia, certainly, they knew or they didn't know if the other was crazy enough to do something. So what did they do? They didn't go there, right? They didn't go to that nth degree. But now we have a president who's who's just a resident, not running the country, doesn't know whether he's coming or going, maybe pushing buttons. And now he's toying with one of the other major nuclear powers. And he doesn't even realize it. That's number one. KJ, to your point, maybe you're old enough, not old enough, too old for the draft, but guess what? During World War II, many people were, I'm going to call it conscripted without being on the front lines. Companies and people were taken over, if you will, or mandated to produce certain things to support the military. Remember, the military is not all front line. It's back in support that needs to feed those who are actually on the front line as well. So.
And another thing, I mean, you mentioned all that. we've been at peace for, a very long time, and I'm grateful for that. But when you talk to, war vets, when you talk to people who, have been to war, even the Gulf War, Afghanistan, they're not playing. They say, man, woman, or child. You have these people out here on college campuses, protesting for Palestine. I know people who, have been behind enemy lines, and they don't even like children because they've seen how many of these children that we call over in the Middle East blowing up their comrades. So I just say that to say people better wake up, and understand we're living in dangerous, perilous times right now. And we got to get this man out of here. We need Trump back in the White House. Someone commented and said, he led with strength, talk where people didn't want to mess with him. And that's what we need back. We honestly do.
Mutually assured destruction.
Right.
And that's what
our super chatter here. We do have a super chatter. Thank you so much. Let me see. I thought I saw someone come across. Exodia. Yes. Yeah. Shelly is the real deal. Says, love your content. Absolutely love Shelly. Love her passion and straight bluntness. Shelly doesn't play. Shelly is a veteran, and
Tyrone is too.
And Tyrone is too. Right. So you always get the best feedback, responses, information from veterans. It's a whole different way of thinking. I definitely thank you all for your service. I certainly do.
Thank you.
Well, let me say one thing,
of course,
because I don't want to leave people with doom and gloom.
Right.
Okay. Listen, these transitions have occurred throughout history before. I mentioned Spain. I mentioned the UK. They're still here. Okay. What individuals should really, in my opinion, start to consider? We need to start to consider cooperative living. Okay. And what I mean by that is not the Marxist type of cooperative living, but with your loved ones, with those people who you get along with, maybe you look at a plot of land somewhere that you all can locate some double wides on if things get too crazy. Okay. Land, they're not making any more of it. If you work it right, it could be a good investment, right? Take a look and decide whether or not gold and silver are have an appropriate place in your portfolio, because gold in particular holds on to its value. Okay. So no matter what has happened, I mean, we can go all the way back to the Roman Empire. This commodity has held its value. Okay. And then start to really consider things that will exempt you legally from future taxation, because taxes are going up. And these are the kinds of things we talk about on the Soldiers of Finance channel.
Right.
Isn't gold expensive though right now?
That it is compared to where it has been. Gold is hovering around $2,300 an ounce. And understand this, this puts the lie to everything they come out, and Karrine Jean Pierre says that the economy is doing well. When you look at gold going up, that tells the truth about where your economy is, because gold has an inverse relationship to the dollar. If the dollar were doing gangbusters, gold would not be setting new records. Central banks around the world would not be acquiring it if the dollar was strong. All right. So they can't lie about gold. You can go on Google and see it going straight up over the last few years.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, again, this is Tyrone Keys from Soldiers of Finance. Certainly, if you guys haven't done so already, run over to his channel and hit that subscribe button. Don't leave us yet, but when you finish here, go to Soldiers of Finance and subscribe. Definitely a wealth of knowledge. We love having you on here, Tyrone. Any final words before you go?
No, I just, again, appreciate you all invite me in again. And I just want people to pay attention to what's going on. There's a lot of talk about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. In the last 50 years, you have not had a financial news story as big as us losing the petrodollar, and they are not reporting it. That should tell you all you need to know.
Yeah, they're not. They're not reporting it. All right. Well, we will continue to follow this story. Thank you so much for joining us, Tyrone. All right. We are moving right along to another very important news topic right here in Maryland, actually. We're talking about Rachel Morin. So have you guys been watching? This is Rachel Morin. She was a she was a young girl here in Maryland, an area called Harford County, Maryland, which is only about 30 minutes from where we are here in Baltimore, who was brutally murdered by an illegal. Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez, 23, illegally crossed the southern border once near El Paso, Texas in January 2023, a second time that same month in New Mexico, and a third time again in New Mexico in February 2023. Department of Homeland Security sources told the New York Post today. So he was part of some gang, some El Salvadorian gang, and he is suspected of killing Rachel Morin. I want you guys to, we have a video of the Harford County Police talking about what occurred to this poor girl. She was hiking here in Maryland along a trail and allegedly murdered, he murdered her, another woman in the Central American country before he entered the US. But he murdered Rachel Morin about 9 months ago, and they just found him recently within the last couple of days. I want you all to take a look at this brief presser that the Howard County Sheriff did, talking about the catch and rescue of this filthy person. Let me see here. All right. Okay, here we are. Actually, 1 second, I'm sorry. Okay.
23-year-old citizen of El Salvador who illegally crossed the border into the United States in February of 2023. We all suspected that perhaps Rachel was not his first victim. And it's my understanding that this suspect, this monster, fled to the United States illegally after committing the brutal murder of a young woman in El Salvador a month early in January of 2023. Once in our country and likely emboldened by his anonymity, he brutally attacked a 9-year-old girl and her mother during a home invasion in March of 2023 in Los Angeles. And as everyone I believe is aware, that was our first DNA match linking Rachel's case to the Los Angeles case. It has been a fear of mine that once we identified this suspect, the result would be exactly this. And I want to now direct these comments to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and to every member in both chambers of Congress. We are 1,800 miles away here in Harford County. We are 1,800 miles away from the southern border, and the American citizens are not safe because of failed immigration policies.
Harford County,
this
Maryland.
Is the second time in just 2 years that an innocent Harford County woman has lost her life to a criminal in our country illegally. Let me repeat that. 1,800 miles from the southern border, and this is the second woman in our county to be killed by an illegal alien. Suspects, in both cases, they are suspects from El Salvador with ties to criminal gangs. Should not be happening. Victor Hernandez did not come here to make a better life for himself or for his family. He came here to escape the crime he committed in El Salvador. He came here and murdered Rachel, and God willing, no one else.
All right. So as Trump said, and Trump was, blasted about it, They do not send their best. The people illegally crossing into the United States are not the best. They're murderers, they're robbers, they're rapists. He said it and he got ridiculed about it. Shelley, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to lead with that as well. So you can insert any country for the most part. Like Donald Trump said, when Mexico insert El Salvador, Venezuela, whatever, they're bringing crime, drugs, rapists, and, you know, murderers, like you said, and maybe a few good people. But when I was looking up today, some of the, I went to the U.S. Customs and Border Control website, and already this is fiscal year 2024. Keep in mind, the federal fiscal year starts October the 1st of the previous year. So already they've had over 10,000 non-citizens, what they call them, non-citizens arrest. In addition to, or some of that breakdown includes, which I don't think this is complete at all, even at this point in time, the homicide, manslaughter, fiscal year 24 year to date. Remember, that starts from October the 1st, 2023. We've had about 20 homicides or murders of Americans by illegal aliens, not non-citizens, not all these other euphemisms that they want to use, or new Americans. These are murderers, and they are slaughtering Americans, just as our resident in the White House is doing all kinds of things that are putting us at risk internationally. We have people in our country that are on our taxpayer dime. They get paid by us, that are undermining us as Americans. They're undermining our safety, our borders, our economy, our families, our children. They are turning upside down the American Constitution, and the people of America better wake up.
Yeah, I mean, the system is not working. And I'm starting to believe that it's not working purposely. And we've seen this administration, the Biden administration, they're just sending people having them through. It took Biden to to come down in the polls, because Trump has been talking about this over and over again. Remember, for him to actually do something finally, he didn't even really do something, but, you know, make some type of executive order, you know, and try to, you know, at least pretend that he's doing something with this border. They have failed tremendously. And out of everything that this man probably could be impeached for, I still say, I said this a while ago, I say it again, he should be impeached for failing to uphold the laws for our border.
Right.
He should be impeached for that alone. They should have impeached Mayorkas. This is a blatant offense of our Constitution. It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Again, we've talked, you know, I've criticized our Congress, even the Supreme Court over the years that we've been on the show. And I'm going to say this again. We have three layers of our justice system, right? Of our federal government. We have the Supreme Court, we have our Congress / Senate, and we have the presidency. They are three co-equal branches. One of them is going off the hinges. The other two are not supposed to allow it. Okay. We have a Congress who can and should have the right to step in and protect our borders, protect our Constitution from the Supreme Court. I don't understand why they're not doing it. The only thing I can come to is that many of them are complicit in destroying our country.
Well, I can tell you one reason why, because they're globalists. And eventually they want an open border. They want to not only to globalize America and have these open borders, but then they also want to create a voting class where they already have a lot of these different cities where leftists are in charge. They allow illegal aliens to vote in local elections. They want to have that. We already know that the Democrats have tried to federalize our voting system. Do you understand that the only reason why we really don't have total chaos right now with our voting system is because it's not federalized? But if it was federalized and the Democrats took control, they would have anybody voting right now. My dog probably could vote if you
Well,
want.
he may have already, right?
If he said he was a Democrat, he would.
Yeah, again, this is why it's important, not just with President Trump in office. It's important that we call it what they call the down votes or the down ballots. We need people in Congress, and I said it like 2 weeks ago. Not that I'm thinking that President Trump is going to be, the end all or the be all. That's not what I'm thinking. That's not what I'm saying either. But he is going to be a bulwark. He can turn some things around. He certainly can put the brakes on a lot of things. And so if we had the right people in Congress, in the Senate, they can also help, even in your states as well. Because our country, we are on a fast track to extinction.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And we have to put a stop to it. And as I've said time and time again, it's Marxism. They are full on Marxists now in the Democrat Party. It's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I'll say it again, Marxism equals Satanism. Karl Marx was a Satanist. And if you look up his preaching and his writings and his life, it all leads back to Satan. And so we are, once again, not just fighting a political system. We are not just fighting leftism, Democrats. We are fighting spiritual warfare here. Right. And it leads back to Satan. And we need to put a stop to it. Open your eyes, people. All of you Christians out there who are still voting Democrat, I'd rather you not vote at all. If you feel like you can't stomach voting for Trump, I don't understand how you can stomach voting for a decrepit, degenerate Satanist. I mean, these people don't believe in God. They really don't. They don't believe in God. No, we're not full of lies. I don't know what you're talking about. Anybody with an ear and eyes can see when Biden entered the White House, he revoked and removed all of the protections Trump had for our border. The border exploded once Biden got into the White House. And now he has put out a back call, like almost for everyone saying, come here. It's open border for everybody. You can come in, get in, stay as long as you want.
Right. Someone mentioned about they want full socialism. I understand what you're saying, but we're beyond socialism. The next communism is where we are. We've had socialism when you think of the welfare state and the government coming in. We are past that part. The next step is communism. Socialism is a little bit between capitalism and communism. Ultimately, what these people want, these globalists want, they want full communism.
Absolutely. Not only that, they want your children. In California, they just unveiled a bill to keep gender transitions secret from parents. Do you understand they're trying to take away parental rights at every turn? School policies that require teachers to hire gender transitions from mother and father. How crazy is that?
It's not crazy when you think of the communist plan, because in communism, children belong to the state, not their parents. That's number one. Number two, this has been going on even more so in the last 5 years, but in the last 2 years, if I'm not mistaken, there's a case in Montana and there was a case in New York where the school districts and the social workers in the school, the government workers or whomever, have taken children from their parents, did not inform their parents, and had these children transition basically, along with California. This was in Montana and New York, Montana no less, right? There are other cases, I think, in either Idaho or Iowa, maybe both, but this is part of the agenda. And this happens most of the time in public schools. Remember, public schools are government schools, taxpayer schools. The government wants our children. They don't want parents in control. They don't want children to be attached to their parents, because parents, by and large, will care for and love their children and will guide them away from the things that the government wants to own them for and own their minds. This is nothing short of diabolical. It is communism.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's public schools. And the reason why specifically here in California that they're trying to pass this bill is because recently parents and teachers that object to this policy of hiding, keeping secrets from parents about this gender transition have been winning in the court. They've been winning six-figure settlements against school districts that have adopted this policy position. So this is why they're now trying to pass a bill within the legislature. I think they may have already passed it. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure they. I think they try. I think it's still, but yeah.
Yeah, this is why they're trying to pass it so they can skirt these legal issues and these settlements. They don't want to pay. But so they're trying to skirt. It's diabolical, like you mentioned. It's diabolical.
Yeah.
Can you imagine to keep secret something like this from a parent?
Yeah, look, we see parents all the time on social media literally showing their asses, right? We're in all kinds of situations where they shouldn't, but yet I would encourage them to like Tyrone said, link up with other like-minded parents and go and fight your governments in California, your state governments in DC. They don't have the power that they think they have unless we give it to them.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, in 2022, a single mother near Monterey became the first California parent to sue her district for swaying, guess how old? 11-year-old daughter into believing she was a boy. Leaked audio from the California Teachers Association conference captured two of the daughter's teachers discussing how they stalked students' web searches to recruit members for a secret transgender club. The mother landed $100,000 settlement against the district last year.
Yeah.
Why? I know why. I know, but this is the eerie evil. It's this transgender, this gender ideology. This is this issue that they continue to push on and on and on. Why?
Right. Because they are implementing their communist, globalist, if you want, goals. And I was looking at the 45 goals of communists that were introduced in our Congress some years ago, right? Few decades ago. And I saw a few different ones that directly apply to these children being transitioned without their parents' knowledge or consent. You can look them up. I'm not going to read them all, but number 1, number 2, you can go for number 4, you can add number 6, number 7, number 8, certainly, number 9, keep on going down. There's 45 of them. And number 16, where you're discrediting the family, you're transferring powers, number 15. So there are many. Number 17, emphasize the need to raise children away from the negative influence of parents. These goals are in full effect. And this is in America. This is in our country, the United States of America, the land of the free and home of the brave, where children are literally being turned against their parents by our government. Our taxpayer dollars are being used against us.
Absolutely. And not even old institutions and companies and businesses that we used to rely on that we thought were safe are safe anymore. We've talked about this. The Boy Scouts or the Cub Scouts have been ruined with this gender ideology. Now Scholastic's kids. I mean, I, as a child, remember the Scholastic reading, the Scholastic, what do you call it?
The bill.
You know,
Schoolhouse Rock.
Not Schoolhouse Rock, Scholastic books. So they used to hold fairs in schools. It was Scholastic books used to do that all the time, every year, the book fair. Well, now they are pushing this gender ideology. So for Pride Month, they're pushing this where LGBT activists have taken the safety away. So the publishing company released its Read with Pride. The guide associated website and list of books and resources has the left loves to both unapologetically send parents, educators, and kids towards the most extreme left-wing sources on LGBT ideology. So, I mean, it's a list of stuff here, but everyday feminism, Teen Vogue, Rainbow Book List, all this stuff is now being pushed through the Scholastic. So, you know, they used to send this out with the kids in class, and you go through and you look through the books, and it's all throughout here. Definitions of gay, bisexual, transgender, all in this new Scholastic book thing for the Pride Month.
That's what our children are learning. They can't read, can't write, can't do math, but they can be given this pride agenda. Look at number 2 and number 5 on these communist goals about softening the curriculum and gaining control of the teachers associations. I mean, again, I've said it before, you've said it. Every institution has been infiltrated by leftism, progressivism, communism, whatever you want to call it. Every institution has been infiltrated. And the only way we will gain our control and our rightful power to have it and keep it and get it back is to fight these jokers. We have to.
Yeah, we do. And the thing about it is, I mean, as I mentioned, if you want to be gay, that's fine. But it's gone from an option to a requirement, even with this scholastic thing. So now they have anyone not queer is positioned as a problem, constantly referenced in historical injustices. For example, queer is defined as a term historically wielded as an insult by people. So not only this, but two-spirit is referenced as specifically for Native Americans who reject the colonialist gender binary. So they form these narratives, these stories to paint it so if you disagree with this lifestyle, then you are a bigot, you are evil, you are wrong. And when you position it that way to children, what other option do they? It's not even an option really, because they're going to think they're being wrong, they're being non-inclusive. So then they, go along with it. It's
exactly
it's evil, as you mentioned. It's
evil.
It's evil. So I do want to acknowledge another super chatter here. Thank you so much. Let me see what I had here. I know I saw. Yes, Kenty 14 says powerful episode tonight. Thank you for speaking the truth that mainstream media is too compromised to report. You ladies are God sent.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Kenzie. Really appreciate that. This is what we're here to do, guys. We are a community, and this is as Tyrone mentioned, we have to start forming communities like this, where we can kind of depend on each other. If and when this chaos, anarchy breaks out, we need to have people we can reach out to and say, "This is the meeting place, guys. You bring this, you bring that, pool our money together and buy land," as Tyrone mentioned, where we can form with like-minded people and get together. And if God forbid something does happen and the world or the United States falls, we have, spirited patriots that all have, certain things they do well. People in medicine, marksmen, all kinds of stuff. We can pull together and create our communities. This is what we're gonna have to do,
just like they did on The Walking Dead.
Right, right. You're absolutely right, Shelley. All right. Well, moving right along, I want to move on now to our counter view segment. So this is part of the program where we take something that the View is spewing and we respond to it with the truth. All right. So one thing that they were talking about this week is the Me Too movement. And they were pretty much asking whether or not it was positive or negative. So I have that clip here. Let me see here. All right. So here we are. Take a look here. This is these old baffling biddies, as you say, Shelley, talking about this.
I think there is a spectrum of behavior. You have Harvey Weinstein, certainly all over to the left.
That's fine.
And then you have, let's say, someone who makes you feel creepy or looks at you a certain way or says to you, "You look beautiful today," but you don't receive that well. Is it time now to maybe, people have consequences. I don't believe in cancel culture. I believe in the consequences. But what happened to forgiveness in this
But
society?
is that an
and I
insult
do
when
think-
someone says you look beautiful today? That's bad.
Well,
But I
just
I
to
don't mind it.
some women, that is part of
Yeah.
the Me Too.
Neurotic
I think
women.
there were a lot of positives that came out of Me Too. One is teaching us about consent and the importance of it. I think talking about power dynamics and how that factors into
Yeah.
sexual relationships. And I think putting a spotlight in the fact that 1 in 3 women will likely be sexually assaulted in their lifetime. But I think there should be forgiveness if there's accountability, you're doing work to fix yourself, and you're willing to face the consequences.
And the
I see someone like a Harvey Weinstein where I don't believe that he does not deserve rehabilitation. He deserves accountability for the victims that he had. But I do have to say the great failing of Me Too, in my opinion, was after October 7th, a mass case of sexual assault, and how many people remain silent for so long or try to equivocate around it. If we are going to call out sexual violence and we're going to say that we believe women, we need to believe Israeli women.
All right. What are your thoughts here? I mean, set aside what they've said, and of course respond if you want to something they said, but do you think the Me Too movement was good, bad, or are you indifferent?
Okay. I think the Me Too movement as a whole was totally off the rails. Okay. And I say that because do I want women, or anyone for that matter, but certainly women and children, I don't want them raped, don't want them sexually assaulted. That's wrong. Those people should be prosecuted, reported, whatever. That's all give and take. I mean, that's all given, given. Those laws were already on the book. What the Me Too movement to me has added to was making women look weaker and foolish. I don't know any woman in her right mind who gets upset because someone, even a stranger, says that you look beautiful or you look nice or I love that color on you or your hair, whatever it may be. I don't know any woman, however old she is, I don't know how much gray she may have, that does not want to hear that she looks beautiful. That's called normal. So, and this little idea, some women are weak and they've gotten weaker. For all the feminism that has come out, Rosie the Riveter, women in general, by and large, have gotten weak in these so-called movements that aim to empower them. No, it doesn't. You know what empowers women? When you have healthy, normal women, healthy, normal men saying, oh, you look beautiful. Or women say, oh, I like that on you. You look nice. That cologne smells good. Or that's a handsome guy. You know how girls talk amongst each other. But you can't even do that now without needing a safe space and a bubble.
I agree, Shelley. I think it was a total flop. And to me, in my opinion, there were 2 reasons why it was a total flop. Number one, most of it was politically motivated. And it was politically motivated. The leftists, the left pushed this Me Too, but they only pushed it on certain people. And if it was someone on the left or one of their big Democrat elitist people, then they, turned a blind eye. But then if it was someone, that they didn't care about, or, then it was, oh, Me Too, and they tried to ruin and cancel these people. And most of the stuff that came out about it, these people who came forward, it came out, there was no evidence. There was no evidence about most of this stuff.
Right.
So,
exactly.
I mean, for instance, what they were specifically talking about was Kevin Spacey. And as creepy as you may think he is, he was found out everything that they came out against him was wrong. He was found innocent on all accounts, every account. And then as they started to really look into some of these stories, there were so many holes in many of these stories of these accusers of Kevin Spacey that it should have never even gone to court.
Right. Exactly. And I'll tell you another reason, I'm going to add to your 2, that the Me Too movement, because what it showed was that not only did it show that some of these predators, if you will, were guilty, they should have been under, like you say, under the jail, right? It showed that in some cases, I want to say not even the majority, okay? Because like you said, a lot of them were
it wasn't the majority.
It wasn't. But for women, what it also showed was that women will allow other women to be hurt by predators that they know should have been reported. So they got money or they got fame and fortune from however long ago that they were being maybe raped or assaulted, but they let it go on. They knew other women were coming behind them. They didn't tell them. They didn't warn them. No, they let other women get assaulted and raped and molested and traumatized when these other women who are supposed to be the sisterhood, right, let these other women get, come away with all these mental and physical scars.
Yeah, and not only that, when we talk, when you're talking about women, the whole Me Too movement was critical, uber critical of men, and was not critical of women. And when I say that, I am, of course, not talking about real victims. I'm talking about the accountability that we need to have, the conversations about over-sexualization of children. We need to talk about, how they're pushing whore walks and promiscuity amongst women, sex, free open sex with any and everybody with no responsibility about it. This is what we are pushing on our young girls, on young women. And so on one hand, you push this uber sexual culture, and then on the other hand, you're supposed to hold men accountable. I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever. They downplay marriage. They ridicule it, don't want anybody to get married anymore, but then they don't, you want women, it's just Me Too. It made no sense to me. It made no sense.
Yeah, to me, the movement was largely about, I want sympathy. I want to. It was kind of a backdoor way to just go at men in general, but maybe some specific men who deserved it. But it was not the majority.
No, and not only that, but it was more so to me like a Salem witch trial for men. I mean, look what happened. Remember, what was that nutcase's name? Blasey, the one who came out
Ford.
Christine Blasey Ford, who came out against Judge Kavanaugh. To this day, she has not presented 1 ounce of evidence about any of the accusations that she made to that man.
No, she has not. She has not about. Now, I will say this about her. Again, not against Judge Kavanaugh, which she didn't have any evidence. I do believe that she was assaulted at some point in her life. I do believe that. Not by Judge Kavanaugh, I'm not saying that. I do believe she was assaulted or raped or whatever. She may be a nut, but I do believe that. I don't think Judge Kavanaugh was the person. I think she has conflated a whole lot of things or whatever, people, but I do believe that she was assaulted. Again, I don't have any evidence. It's just what I believe, but she certainly did not have any evidence against Judge Kavanaugh. And one of the things about that case, that
what type of person are you to come out against this man? And even if you weren't, you're not even sure. And everyone who you said that would vouch for you didn't. The friend of Kavanaugh's, who she alleged was in the room, vehemently denied that this took place. I mean, it was all over the place, but she was being put up on this pedestal by these evil leftists and the Democrats, all to try to make sure this man was not put forth on the Supreme Court.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
Absolutely.
It was terrible. So again,
it was terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was terrible. So once again, we do this, we talk, we respond to something the View or the Spew we call has brought about. These women are another bunch of terrible, awful women. Yeah. So I want to round out tonight, I believe, with Morgan Freeman. So Morgan Freeman came out this week, I think it was actually today, and talking about how he detests Black History Month. So he was in an interview recently. Now, he came out and said something similar a couple years ago, but this was this weekend. He was being interviewed by Variety magazine, discussing past projects, including his Civil War series, The Gray House. And he says, and I quote, according to the Daily Wire, "I detest it, the mere idea of it," Freeman said. You're going to give me the shortest month in a year, and you are going to celebrate my history. This whole idea makes my teeth itch. It's not right. My history is American history, he continued. It's one thing in this world I'm interested in, beyond making money, having a good time, and getting enough sleep. Shelly, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know why they keep bothering this man about this. I don't understand why. I didn't even know, like, why would they ask him about Black history? I'm guessing it has something to do with leading into Juneteenth and all this stuff. Well, I mean, hell, the what is it? The LGBTQ have pretty much taken over June. So why, I don't even get it. But leave this man alone. I agree with him. I've said as much before. I was just afraid when I kept reading. I thought he was saying it was making his ass itch, but I'm glad he didn't say that. So I thought that's where he was going, but I was like, oh no, Morgan. But
oh my gosh. Oh no. Yeah. I'm not mad at it. I feel the exact same way. We've talked about that on the show before. Black history is American history. And it, needs to be just intertwined into the natural American history course. And, I don't believe there should be a month set aside for it at all. And he also mentioned something about African Americans. So he said, I know you said, he said, similarly, he says, remarks in the past about Black History Month, saying last year that was an insult, along with being called an African American. He says, I don't subscribe to that title, Freeman said at the time. Black people have had different titles all the way back to the N-word, and I do not know how these things get such a grip. But everyone uses African American. What does it really mean? What are your thoughts there?
Well, if I have to go back to my Queen of Sheba history and lineage, then I would say, okay, I'm African American. But I was born here. I am an American. And in fact, I always clarify, I'm a Native American because I was born on U.S. soil. I am a Native American. Take it or leave it, like it or love it. I really don't give a damn.
Right. Well, I've said before, I'm an American. I'm American. And then outside of that, if you want to ask me, I am a daughter of the king. So I am not, Black. I don't need all this race. Race was initially made or created for division anyway. It's not even, it doesn't matter. Most people, and if you go to other countries, if there is some type of designation or some type of delineation, they define themselves by their country of origin, which we are American. Outside of that, or foremost, I am a daughter of the king, and that's it. So that's it for me. All right. Well, that does it then for us tonight. I believe I got through everything we were supposed to go through tonight. Yes, indeed. So final thoughts for us tonight, Shelly.
Wow, it's a lot that's going on. I know we bring a lot of information, some doomy things, gloomy things, but we have to have hope, right? We'll have our days where we get down, and I feel like sometimes I want to get a razor and slip my own damn wrist, right? Because it's like, is this really going on? Let me just make sure I'm still got some blood in here. But ultimately, we can't give up. We can't have despair. At least we can't live in it, right? We can't. We have generations coming behind us, and we have a country to save. I believe that, like our Declaration talks about, our Constitution, God gave us this country. And this is our country to care for, to cultivate, to grow, and just to be grateful that we have it. And we can have it, we can keep it if we don't lose it. And we have work to do to not lose it.
All right. Absolutely. We have so many comments coming in tonight. We guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I saw this one here. So no response about the racist signs, Trump mob, and marching to the Capitol.
No.
Many of us were there, you idiot. We were there. We talked about this last time we were on the show. if you go to a Trump rally, which we have gone to, we've been to, many of us were at the Capitol protest, many of us were at the Stop the Mandates protest. There's no racism. We have not encountered it at these rallies, at these events. So, have you gone to one? Instead of just listening to this crazy news and things like that, why don't you go to one? Speaking of that, there's one this weekend in Philadelphia, which we plan on trying to attend. And so again, we've been to Trump rallies. You'll find people, excited about this country. You'll find people, wanting this country to thrive. You'll find people praying. There are a lot of faith-based people there. People are likely to break out in prayer. I mean, it's great. It's great.
I'm not even answering him. First of all, I'll just say this. There's one race, the human race. That's number one. Number two, I'm not responding to you because if you watched our shows many times before, we talk about how, this racism is used as a divisionary tactic. I think Tyrone said it earlier, or one of us said it earlier, but this is all distraction. If you've heard nothing else, all you got out of this was, oh, Trump, somebody had racist signs. Man, go sit on a tack. Please, no.
Yeah, sit on a tack, and I hope your ass itches.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. So again, that does it for us tonight. We will be back on Wednesday live in the studio. We will be back. So definitely check us out at 8 p.m. on Wednesday. Lots to come back to with that. We'll be back in the studio. Until then, count your blessings and live a life of purpose. Good night.